Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about annotating your books. Something I really love and believe in. I love books, clearly. I'm reading a story, I'm reading a writer's thoughts, but I also want to respond to that writer. I want to highlight the parts that I really like. I want to write things down if I have a thought. I want to feel like I'm a little bit in conversation with that author. When I read, I really love to enjoy beautiful word choices, beautiful sentence structures. And so for me, it's really almost like a sport. It's like an Olympic sport where I'm reading a book and I'm like excited to be impressed by something that the author has pulled off. You watch the athlete dive off of the platform and you're thinking, all right, what are you gonna pull off? And sometimes they do something incredible and you find yourself gasping or like applauding. And that's how I feel when I'm reading. I will read something amazing and I'm like, I need to acknowledge that this was fantastic. Or I want to be able to come back to this in future. So I will underline it or put a star next to it. And I thought it would be really fun to show you in my books. We're going to go over to my desk in a minute, but I'm going to show you how I annotate and how I interact with my books. First, we're going to do a word from our sponsor, and then I'm going to show you how I annotate. Today's video is brought to us by Book of the Month. Book of the Month is an online book service for readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging and popular authors and to help you find a great book. Every month, their team goes through hundreds of titles. They pick 5. You, if you're using the service, pick out the one that you're most excited by and they ship it to you. If, for some reason, you don't like selection that month or you want to skip for that month, you can do so at no charge. The titles this month are The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, Damnation's Spring by Ash Davidson, The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova, Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey, and Not a Happy Family by Shari LaPena. Currently, Book of the Month only ships within the US. If you're interested, click the link down in the description and use my code Ariel to get your first book for $9.99. And thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. All right, we've come to the desk and it's time to begin. So the first element we must discuss is highlighting and underlining. For me, highlighting and underlining are the same thing. They're just using different implements. So if I have a pen on me or I have a marker on me, that's what's gonna make the difference. But if we flip through this book, you can see we've got general highlights. So highlighting is, we have different colors. You can tell I had different markers when I was reading different sections of the book. Back to blue. Highlighting is what I do when I read a line that I think is really interesting or beautiful or important. In this book, you can see that I've underlined in pencil. But I believe in this book, oh yep, I underlined in pen. So that's the same thing. It's just cluing me in to an interesting line. It's me interacting with the book, acknowledging, I think this is interesting. If I think it's extremely interesting, I will put a star next to it. Funny, here it says the term shifting baseline. It's like the baseline, it's a coincidence. The baseline is underlining or it's highlighting, but once I've done that, a star will be put next to something. Stars are actually really important to the way that I annotate because it's, while I'm flipping like I just did, it's an easy way for me to see, oh, that was an especially important highlight. So I can flip through and I'll be like, oh, that one's important. It catches my eye by just looking at the edge here. The other way I will do this is with square brackets. So I'm sure there will be one here. Yeah, a square bracket. So this is similar to highlighting or underlining for me, but it's just a very easy way to just grab my pen and go, it's actually kind of hard to highlight, like, or underline. You have to be so steady when you do it. So sometimes I will just do this, or it will be helpful when there's like a large section that I think is important. Oh, there, do you see that? Here's a perfect example. I'm not gonna go ahead and highlight or underline all of this, So I just put the giant square brackets, and that's another way for me to visualize it when I'm flipping through the pages. If we come to my man George Orwell, we come to our next category, Marginalia. So I don't write very often in my books, but I do sometimes. I'm not against it. I just find it usually a little suffocating. It's kind of hard to do. You can see I've written, haha! Or at the end of this one, huzzah! I like to interact with it. I like to feel like I'm talking to this person or make little comments. But here you can also see a check mark. So the check marks are better illustrated in poetry. Poetry is a slightly different thing, isn't it? Because it's a little bit more, well, word by word. So let's flip through and we'll see a check mark. A check mark is a way for me to say, I really like that. It's like a punctuation, it's an exclamation, it's a, aha, that was worth check marking. But sometimes, and I know that Mary will have done it, aha, I will do 2 check marks. That is rare. In my annotating, a double check mark is a rare thing, but it is a coveted position. That means I absolutely love that. If I'm flipping through something and I see a double check mark, it means that I think that the author did something so brilliant. We can use No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood to show that I also dog ear. I do. I dog ear because that is my biggest way of saying this is something I'm going to want to refer to. Let's go back to it. There is one other form of marginalia that I do, and it is using the front paper. Uh-oh, I feel like this is the one people are going to get the most mad at me about. This is what I often do for book club books. Books where I know I am going to need to remember things, or there are themes I want to point out. If I'm going through a book and enjoying lines or enjoying phraseology or anything, you know, I'm mainly just highlighting it. That's a way for me to acknowledge it, a way for me to bookmark it. But if there's a theme or a concept I really want to remember, I will put it at the beginning of the page or sometimes at the end of the page, just depending on how I'm feeling, to remind myself of those ideas, to ask bigger questions. This was a book club book for my podcast, as was Emma, was our last book club book. And you will see, oh yeah, so this one I didn't do at the beginning because there isn't really a blank end page, so I went to the back. You can see these are quickly written notes. They are just thoughts. It's a notepad for me, a place to keep my ideas. Let's talk about tools. There are 2 things that dictate what tool I use for annotating. The first is what's available. If I'm just reading and I see a pen or a pencil, or it's just the nearest thing close to me, that is the thing that I will use. But if I'm putting a little more thought into it, there are a couple of things I would do. So for example, for this book, I would never use these. I would use this because they match. I enjoy color coding. I think it's fun. It feels themed. What I would do with a pen would be just general underlining. I really like using these colored pens. I find them cute to flip through. For example, as you saw in the bell jar, I was using pink, and it looks really, I don't know, it's pretty. Why not? I recently got this pen from Muji, and I love it because it's super detailed. With a pen like this, I hate underlining things. So I would always do my brackets, or I'll do my stars with them. And these are great for writing. But I find them tricky for underlining things because they don't really stand out very much. But I also do love highlighters. I do. I use them. These mild liners, these are my favorite. They are so easy to point things out with. I will say, pencils. A note on pencils. Do I even have one around? Yes, pencils. I don't like annotating with pencils. I will do it again if it's the only thing around, but I don't enjoy it. I find that a lot of paper in books is very soft, and my pencils will cut into the paper. I don't find that very pleasant. However, there is a huge exception if we're talking about poetry. I always do it with pencil. I don't know why. It feels like I'm writing with the author. I'm like there and present, and it feels more like a sketch. So I will always do poetry with pencils, but never novels or nonfiction. I don't know. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed sharing that with you. I would love to know how you annotate your books down in the description. Do you have a particular pen that you feel you must use? Or are you the kind of person who just can't bring yourself to write in your books? I know many people like that, where the book is like a sacred object that cannot be written in. I am clearly not that guy. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one.